Hi, my name is Tamara Webb, and I am going to be talking about the discipline of self-development. My presentation is from the book Practicing Greatness, 7 Disciplines of Extraordinary Spiritual Leaders by author Reggie McNeil. Practicing the habit of self-development will qualify your leadership for greatness. Great leaders never stop developing. Moses, Abraham, Paul all started ministry later in life. They had to grow and change and develop as God directed them in their roles as leaders. If we have been in leadership a while, we can get stuck doing the things the way we first learned and not growing and developing with culture, with technology, and with generational changes. We must not get stuck in ruts leading to ineffectiveness and irrelevancy. In order to change, we must unlearn some of the old ways. Areas that sometimes we have to unlearn are emotional issues from our past, associations or people that limit us instead of enhancing us, and ministry methods that need to be updated. Sometimes even our worldview needs to change. Lifelong learning processes. How do we learn? Do we process internally through books or quiet reading and studying? Do we process externally? Are we verbal processors? Do we like to hear something read or taught audibly? Or do we prefer academic study with structure? How do we learn? It's important to know how you learn. Lifelong learners are intentional. It's not necessarily convenient, it's not necessarily easy, but it's worth it. Be intentional about learning. Leaders intentionally expose themselves to new ideas. Sometimes we need new ideas generationally. We need to know what other generations are engaging with, what interests them. We can read books on innovative new ways of doing ministry. It's said that great leaders read many books a year. How much are we learning? How much are we reading? Learning networks. Some places for learning networks, places where we get together and exchange ideas, exchange thoughts, encourage each other in learning. These can be ministry associations. Denominations sometimes offer learning networks. Leadership networks or para-church organizations have learning networks. Even Facebook groups we can find where we learn and we can connect either by our roles or maybe by our common missions. Smart leaders realize the short shelf life of whatever formal preparation they had for their role. I thought this was a great quote from the book because back in 1989, I went to Bible school and I learned a lot of things about leadership, but there were a lot of practical things I never learned. Sometimes practical learning is difficult in a formal education. And there's really no way to really teach you everything. We must be willing to learn more and to grow and to change and develop through other ways as well. Learning communities. Whether one-on-one or in a cohort of others with a common mission or role, Those involved in learning communities will enhance their knowledge and creativity at an exponential rate. When we learn with others, we grow faster. Jesus was the greatest example of a learning community. Jesus sent them out. Then they came back to debrief about their experiences, their observations, and the ministry that they had. This debriefing is paramount to the process of learning networks. It's so important that we have other people to process our learning with. Building on strengths. Great leaders differ from good leaders, in part because of the degree to which they have developed and built on their strengths. We are stewards of the talent we have, not the talent we don't have or simply wish we had. We need to become aware of our strengths and our talents. Talent matters. What is your talent? What are you good at? What do you excel at? What have others told you you excel at? Another way to become aware of your talents is the Gallup Strengths Finder. They've developed 34 different themes of strengths. If you buy one of their books, the Strength Finder book, or any of their books, actually, there's a code in the back and you can go to the website and you can take the test for free. By taking this test, the 34 strengths are categorized, your greatest to your weakest. By doing this, you can learn what exactly you are great at and ways to develop those strengths. Another thing you can do is, what is that thing that when you do it, you say, I was born for this? What brings joy? What motivates you? What do you get excited about? Psalms 37:4 says, delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. Some people read this as, he will give you whatever you want. But other people have read this to mean, he will actually give you those desires. He will place inside of you those desires, those things that make your heart just burst with excitement. If he gives you those desires, he's going to help you to develop those things as well. We need to develop a strengths culture. Developing a strength-based culture focuses on our strengths, not on our weakness. It's been proven that focusing on our strengths is what helps us to grow best. We need to just say no to perfectionism. Give people space to grow, including ourselves. Focusing on strengths wards off burnout. And developing our strengths brings energy and enthusiasm to our life. Developing through failure. My husband and I had a church years ago, and because of several reasons, the church fell apart. We've had to walk through this process, and just now, he's getting prepared to re-enter ministry. The process of developing through failure is important. It's difficult, though. You have to start by admitting your mistakes, then accepting responsibility, not trying to push it off onto someone else or some other reason. We need to make restitution. Sometimes we need to make amends for what we've done wrong. We need to reassess life and vision and values. We need to mourn the loss. It's difficult to mourn the loss. For us, it was difficult to mourn that loss of losing the church and making the mistakes we made. We need to move to closure. Paul talks about putting behind us those things and pressing forward to the high calling of Christ. We need to accept direction, Find people who help us, to give us direction, to give us wisdom, people who have been where we've been. And then we need to establish new behaviors and new accountabilities. Practicing the habit of self-developing happens through continual learning, lifelong learning, through focusing on our strengths, finding our strengths and developing them, and growing through failure. Thanks so much for listening.